learning environments, which is Dr. Sugata Mitra's method of children basically using the internet collaboratively to go on these fantastic voyages of discovery. It's very liberating for the children's minds. But my objective was to marry soul with the mainstream curriculum of Cambridge. So this is the balance that I was trying to create. Oh, I don't know my clicker. Let me introduce you to the hero of the story. This is my daughter. Her name is India Fire. We were living in Goa and UK simultaneously. So I came to Goa in 2005 when she was 1.5. And we would stay 6 months in Goa and 6 months in the UK. When we were in India, she would go to a Steiner school, and when we were in England, she would go to a Montessori school. Anyway, one year we were in the UK, and my friend Zania, who's actually one of my best friends, said, Shilpa, you have to come to this PTA meeting. And I was like, listen, Zania, I'd much rather go to the beach. I don't want to go to a PTA meeting. It's not what I enjoy doing. She was like, you have to come. I'm forcing you, come. So I went to this meeting, and a lady called Kath announced that she wanted to apply to the government for a significant amount of funding to set up a free school. So I don't know if you're aware of the free school campaigns in the UK, but it's where basically the government gives specialised groups quite a large amount of money to set up a school in their own interests. So it was a very interesting time in the UK's Department of Education in what they were offering students. So she said, listen, what we need to do, I need to persuade the Department of Education that there is significant demand in Brighton and Hove for a Montessori education. Who's going to help me? Well, being the responsible citizen that I am, I raised my hand and I said, Kath, actually maybe I can help you because you know, my life BC, before children, was I was a journalist. I worked for the BBC, I worked for Channel 4, I worked for the Discovery Channel, and I was basically a TV reporter and a radio reporter. So I understood how to talk to the media, and I understood how to get big messages out. So I said, listen, Kath, what do I need to do? She said, Shilpa, you've got 3 months. You've got to get 100 sign-ups, so we can prove to the Department of Education that this type of education is needed in Brighton. So she planted some very important seeds in my mind. Firstly, that you could map Montessori to the national curriculum of the UK. This was the first time I'd heard that you could map curriculums. And the second thing that situation did for me was it made me very passionate about Montessori education because I had to communicate it to many parents. Montessori is a self-led journey that children go on. It's self-directed learning. The teacher is there just to guide and support. The teacher is not there to dictate or prescribe in any way how the child should unfold their learning processes. So the fire was lit, Shilpa Mehta was off. I used the Facebook campaign and I really encouraged people to get involved with this free school setup. I got the 100 signatures, but not in 3 months. I got it in 3 weeks. So Kath went to the Department of Education and she said, listen, demand exists, can we set up this school? Unfortunately, the application was turned down. So we didn't make that school. If it had started, I'd still be there. So what did we do? We came back to Goa. So we came back to Goa and the headmistress of the school called a PTA meeting. I was like, oh, not another meeting that I have to go to. She called us in and she said, do you know what, guys? She was from Hungary, and she said, you know, I've spent many years running this school, I'm exhausted, I need to go back to the West. It's up to you guys now to run the school. I thought to myself, I must stop coming to these meetings because every time I come, something very dangerous happens. But I didn't say that out loud. I said, I will help. What can I do? She said, well, come and help run the school. And I was like, listen, this school is fantastic. It's a Steiner school. Steiner's a very unstructured type of educational process. But I need something with more definition. My daughter's like 8 or 9 years old now. I don't want her to lose her way. I want her to be able to go back to the West or into any formal traditional educational system and not be lost. So can we bring in some more structure? Maybe we can use the Cambridge curriculum. She said no. I want to stick to it being a school exactly as it is. So, you know, I looked at her and I said, if you're not going to set up the kind of school that I need for my daughter, then I will set it up for myself. 2014, I set up my first primary school in South Goa. Now, South Goa is a very rural place. It's just a series of fishing villages. There's an expat community there. You know, the school went very well for that year because there were other parents who had similar concerns. But I had another problem because by that point, India Fire was turning 11. And I knew I needed a secondary school. And as charming as South Goa is, and the beautiful beaches and everything, I knew that I couldn't set up a secondary school in time for her. So I said to the lady that I was running the school with, listen, I need to go to North Goa, because in North Goa there's more schools, it's more like a metropolis, it's like a little city, so I need to go and find her another school. She said, off you go. So then I put my daughter in a proper school. This school was very different to what she was used to. It was a much more formal school. It was more rigid. It was more inflexible. There was more a demand for obedience, which we weren't used to. And slowly but surely, I began to see my daughter diminish. She was getting smaller. It's like her soul was leaking out of her shoes. And I was watching her become less of a person. And I knew that this education system was not working for her. Now, this is not a criticism of that school. I don't want to criticize other educators. It's a lovely school. What I'm challenging, though, is the system behind the school. A system that says that children's minds are empty unless we, as educators, fill them up. And it is up to us to direct that journey. This was going against everything that I understood about education as a mother, that she has to find her own process from within. She has to know who she is and express that outwardly, and we have to support that mission of hers. So, I could see that this was not working for my kid. I looked at her and I said, listen, India Fire, I've got a great idea. Let's go to Bangalore. I'll put you in an international school, and we'll become city girls, and we'll lead this new kind of life. And she looked at me, and she said, no, Mummy, I want to live in Goa. So I was faced with a very difficult situation. I had to commit to my daughter's well-being. I knew I had to commit to Goa, and I knew I had to set up a secondary school. It's not easy setting up schools, as you know, and you know, I was completely daunted by the task. I'm not an educator. I don't have stacks of money to do these things. All I have is a daughter that needed a school. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. However, I approached it as a journalist and not as an educator. I started looking at all the most innovative ways of teaching that were at the frontiers of what modern people were thinking about learning. I wrote some articles for a newspaper, and in these articles, I understood that children today are going to live to 120 and have maybe 40 jobs and 10 careers. I came across an American military term, which is VUCA, V-U-C-A. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's basically, you know, the whole landscape of warfare has changed. It used to be just an enemy, two enemies fighting it out, but now the American military understood that you don't know where the enemy's coming from anymore. It could be coming through the airwaves, it could be coming through the sea, from outer space, it could be the person sitting next to you because they've got a bomb strapped to them. They have coined a term, VUCA, V-U-C-A, which means that the future is volatile, uncertain, complex, and I would even say chaotic, and ambiguous. Now, businesses and corporates have taken on these strategies for VUCA to deal with a very disrupted world. Why was education not doing that? Where is our VUCA strategy? Why are we not looking at this future as this, complete unknown entity? All other industries in the world are getting revolutionized, except education. This is when I came across Mr. Sugata Mitra. I watched his videos and I was enchanted. I just thought, yes, self-organized learning environments, this is really the future of learning. I think this could really work. I wrote to him and I said, listen, Sugata, you have created these soul classrooms all over the world and it's gone viral and it's working really well, but what about a soul school? I'd like to set up a soul school in Goa. He said, Shilpa, go for it. I asked him if he'd be the advisor, and he said yes. So this was my mission. I was going to take self-organized learning environments and I was going to map it to a mainstream curriculum of Cambridge. I really believed that the soul element of the classroom, which is, just to remind you, which is where children use the internet, they work collaboratively to ask really big questions, big messy questions that there's no right or wrong answer to, such as, how did life on Earth begin and how will it end? Soul is a very exciting educational method. So that was my mission, to set up a Soul Cambridge school. In 2016, I obtained this building in Aldona in North Goa. It's a beautiful 400-year-old restored Indo-Portuguese mansion. My mission was to turn this heritage building into a spaceship. This is the ballroom, which I turned into the soul room. This is where children use technology, the internet, to answer these big questions and go on their learning adventures. We use Apple computers. We like the iOS platform very much. I feel this offers the most magical experience of technology. Oh, okay, fine. So that's the soul room. It's a very beautiful building, as you can see. I designed all the furniture myself inside so that it's interactive and you can write on the tables. Sugata comes to visit us regularly. Here he's talking to the children about exams. So just to touch on how we do things differently in Paradise. Basically, we let children set their own exam schedule. So they can sit their exams, IGCSE exams, in either November, March or February, or June. So that means that they can stagger their exams. They're not all piled up at the end. Halawali, this is a tradition coined by the kids. There's a lot of, the kids take a lot of governance in the schools. They often come and talk to me about, what they would like to do. Halawali is a tradition that they've created, which is a combination of Halloween and Diwali. Enterprise Day. We pick the most exciting subjects from the Cambridge curriculum. Enterprise, environmental management, global perspectives, digital literacy. This is a day, if you walk into the school with 10,000 rupees in your back pocket, you'll walk out with nothing. In fact, I walk out in debt. Personalised learning, this is something that we're very, very serious about. We take each child's learning journey on an individual level, and each child is at a different stage. This is very important to us. It's not a standardised process. So, time is running out. I feel I'm landing a plane. But basically, I think this picture really sums up what Paradise is about. Paradise School, at the centre of it, is a wild garden. This wild garden is where the natural ecosystem of children is allowed to flourish. Trees and birds and insects and weeds, and I don't know, right, what happens in there. It is totally the children's place for them to be children and to understand their own thinking processes. This wild garden is something that I protect. And many people come along and they say, take soul out of your school, turn into an IB school. Change what you're doing, Shilpa, become a normal school. Well, I never set out to set up a conventional school. My job is, I'm the goddess at the gate. I protect the wild garden. But it's also a walled garden. And this is where we have Cambridge, we have all the structures, we have the examination process, we have a fantastic board of governors and trustees and directors who are very passionate about creating one of the most fantastic and creative schools in the country. We believe Goa has all the right conditions to really innovate and become the epicenter of India's educational space. Does self-organizing in a mainstream curriculum work? I can only answer this as a mother. Here's my daughter. She's 15 now. She's doing her IGCSEs. She's set her own exam schedule. She has become a very accomplished, mature, sophisticated, enlightened being. That's all I can say. She knows who she is. She's not afraid to speak out. She has full charge of her soul. She has been enabled by Paradise School to fully express herself. And you know, when you allow children to express themselves and really show what's inside, it is beautiful, it is powerful, and it is worth investing in. So, time's up. Let me just finish on my final slide. What's the future for Paradise? Well, we have some very exciting plans. My challenge in Goa is infrastructure, because there's no buildings. So now I'm working with architects because I'd like to create a school of the future which is shaped like a beehive, which is the ultimate self-organizing system in nature. So this is really my aim. My time is up right now, so I guess this is a story for another time. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much.